Hello again, good friends. Today we're going to be looking at the whole of AQ40 and all of the gear it might offer any of your healers. We're just going to go ahead and get started. No preamble this time. We'll just start with Scarab because the trash loot, it doesn't really exist for healers. Not really, anyway. Hello again, friends. Today we're in fabled AQ40. We're going to look at the healing gear from each boss and decide which is actually worth getting and looking forward to. And exactly how useful is it when you're in Naxx? Is it actually even worth going to AQ40? You just want to, raid log through this whole Phase 5 and go to Phase 6? Is it a thing people can do? I guess we'll find out. We'll go ahead and get into it. We'll start with the bosses because the trash doesn't really drop anything that your healers really care about. As far as like a generic loot system goes, I mean, I'm not going to go over like nature resist gear, and I'm not going to go over 2.5. That's just kind of a different guide. It's useful for some healers it's not, whatever. That's a different video, guide, something, whatever. Anyways, the Prophet Scarab, he really doesn't drop much. Boots of the Fallen Prophet? No. Boots of Redeemed Prophecy, that's what we're looking at. This is actually decent for Paladins. It's not best in slot. You want the Boots of Pure Thought, but so does everybody else. So this is a decent alternative, and this could be a reason that you don't get the Boots of Pure Thought. There's not really a lot of great boot options. There's a couple blue options as well, but they're just not really great. Boots of Pure Thought's just far and away the best piece of gear you can get here until Naxx. If these drop, you shouldn't feel bad for using them, but they're not great, is what I'm trying to say. And other than these boots, Scarab doesn't really drop anything else that other healers would be interested in, as far as like your main healing gear goes. Bug Trio, it's got a couple options here. Angelista's Charm is the first thing we'll talk about here. This is pretty underwhelming. You have several other options. The best in slot is going to be Cthulhu's drop, which, that's going to be hard to get, but you probably will eventually be able to get it. A lot of guilds, I think, will prio that to healers. The quest trinket that he drops, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. They'll probably prio that to healers. It's really good. And even if you don't get Cthulhu's neck, it's fine, because you can just get the AQ20 neck, and it's pretty good. I don't think it's actually as good as Jindo's. Jindo's Evil Eye, which, if you don't have Jindo's Evil Eye by now, I mean, I didn't. Hopefully you do, but if you've been doing ZG since it dropped, there's a good chance you have Jindo's Evil Eye. And between Jindo's Evil Eye, the AQ20 necklace, and Cthulhu's neck, like Angelista's Charm is just not impressive to me. There are people that argue with me that it is better than the AQ20 neck. I disagree. I think at this point, most guilds just want the raw healing. Maybe if you're doing like speedruns or whatever, that's fine. Also, you could argue that it's better for like really, really long fights that your guild might be struggling with, like Twin Emperors. The stamina is fine above the AQ20 neck. But as far as like a general gear list, like I would put AQ20 neck above this, and certainly would put Jindo's Evil Eye and the Cthulhu neck above both that as well. Now, that's the interesting part here. Ternary Metal, it's good. It's no Wild Growth Spalders. So really the only people looking at this should be your priests, and it's actually a very fine option for them. You could argue tier 2 is just as... this should be probably just as much to other healers as priests, because they have tier 2 options while you have Wild Growth Spalders. I don't necessarily agree with that, because Wild Growth Spalders is just so much better than this item. That being said, it is arguable that your guild can hand this out to anybody. It's fine. Like I said, it's just kind of an option. Priests, this is probably best on priests. Paladins as well. I forgot the Paladins, Paladins and priests really want this, but I don't think that it's really that great. if you have tier 2 in here and you're getting your 3 set bonus, or you're going like 8 out of 8 tier 2 as a priest, like you're not really interested in this. And the other dudes, they have Lawgrow Spalders. I don't know, apparently I had like an aneurysm in my brain because paladins wear leather as well. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm a horde main, sorry, gotta go. That's pretty much all this dude drops. Rose of Triumphant, it's great for nature resist. Like I said, we're not really going to talk about that. Battle Guard Sarchira, Creeping Vine Helm. This helmet is not great, but it's also not awful. It looks bad because Donricobertos drops in the same instance. So, nobody's really looking for a Creeping Vine Helm when you can get Donricobertos. Next to that, like, you have world bosses. They drop better helms than this, obviously. At least on par with Donricobertos. A lot of people argue those are better. Most guilds and players don't have access to world bosses, so it's understandable that you just don't even consider that. And on top of all of that, priests, shaman, and druids all want their tier 2 set bonus 3-piece. And at least for, actually I guess for all 3 of those classes, the helmet is a good place to pick that up. Like all 3, the priest, druid, and shaman, all 3 of their helmets for tier 2 are actually very defensible to use. So really, I don't think that most people are going to be caring about the Creeping Vine Helm. It might be good for like an alt, or maybe you're light on healers and you have to like pug somebody. I don't know. It depends on where you're at. But nobody's really caring about the Creeping Vine Helm. It's just an option. You're never going to feel good about wearing it, but it's wearable. What else we got here? I had notes, but I've gotten rid of those. We'll just we'll go together. Oh, leg plates. This is what I was thinking of. Paladins, you shouldn't feel bad at all about using this. It's not as good as empowered leggings. It's probably better than salamander scale pants. And if you don't have salamander scale pants already, you should probably just be looking at this and give those to druids or shamans. Empowered leggings is the best for all healers, but it's going to be hard to get those, so I wouldn't exactly have my sights on that. If you're a paladin, there's a good chance you'll have to settle for these, and they're not really that bad, so hooray, I guess, right? Sarchira's Might, Bis offhand, so everybody basically wants this. Paladin and Shaman, you have more options with your shields. Priests already have Benediction. Druids, yeah, you're going to want this, I guess. Actually, everybody's going to want this. I mean, everybody wants the hammer, the mace in here, big Cthulhu mace of the false prophet. So, Sarchira's Might's the perfect thing to accompany that. For me, I like my cool shaman shield, so that's where I'm going to be. I'm sure a lot of paladins feel that way. It might not be Bis, but, it looks cool, right? For everybody else, Sarchira's Might's where you want to be. It is not a lot better than Lay of the Lifegiver, but it's enough better that you should want it, right? Okay, Fancris. You know what we're going to talk about here. Make sure there's nothing else but the ropes to talk about. Oh yeah, we'll just go ahead and talk about this real quick. Liberum of Grace. Most paladins are going to want the Flash of Light. Great. The Flash of Light Liberum. Was that in Strat? Scalo? It's in Scalo, yeah. Most people want that, but there's no reason not to get this, because there could be fights that you're just spamming cleanse. Dispel poison, whatever. If you don't have a druid, that's going to be somebody's job. Might as well pick it up. It's free. Great. But nobody's really looking forward to it, I don't think. Totem of Life, it's a little bit different. I actually think this is pretty useful for Shaman. The only other option is like the totem that lowers the Ankh cooldown. I don't really think that's very useful in the way that people play the game anymore. Healing Wave, Lesser Healing Wave, it's good in emergencies. You might see yourself casting it more often than you think. And if you're like one of the tier 1 8 out of 8 tank healers, this is very useful. Should be proud to them, in my opinion. It's Totem of Life. It's better than nothing. It's the greatest totem there is ever. Gotta go. Alright. Robes of Guardian Saint. We're all looking forward to learning another turquoise robe. Everybody wants this. So, the same thing that I said earlier about the helmet situation kind of applies to this. Aside from Paladins, everybody else wants their tier 2 3-piece bonus. And, the chest is a place to get it. The Druid's chest is probably the worst out of the options. The Shaman chest is, in my opinion, not as good as the Strat Undead robe. So, Shamans, I think, should be going for robes of the Guardian Saint, as should Paladins. The Druids, it's not, their tier 2 chest isn't great. It's fine. It's about the same. I guess it's about on par as the Shaman tier 2 chest. Now, Priests, they have a good alternative with tier 2. Their tier 2 chest is actually pretty good. But they're also going to want this. This is best in slot for all the healers. As crappy as it may look, it is a good chest piece. So there's a good chance you won't be able to get this. If you're a non-paladin, you do have options other than this and the robes of the undead robes. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, hell, I've had them in my bag for 15 years. Let's look. Where are we at? Yeah, these things. Robes of the Exalted. How am I not remembering these? I've been wearing these for like 6 months. Anyways, Paladin goes from Robes of the Exalted to Robes of the Guardian Saint in most cases. Other healers are probably going to do the same, but they do have a defensible option in wearing their 2-2 piece. This is it, right? Okay. Viscidus. We have a Scarab Brooch here. Idol of Health. We'll talk about this first. This is, as far as I know, it's best in slot for your healing touch druids. Now, as far as I know, druids do like spam rejuve and stuff in AQ40. I don't play my druid at the moment, so I'm not as versed with that as I could be. But if you're actually casting Healing Touch like we were before AQ, you're going to want this. So there's that. And most guilds are just running like 1 or 2 healing druids. So as this drops, it's probably yours. So it's not really much worth talking about, I don't believe. Scarab Brooch. I've heard this is good, and I've heard it's mediocre, and I don't have it, so I don't actually know. Maybe somebody else can tell you more about this than me. It's a great guide, I know. But this is the one thing I just don't really know. I don't know anybody who has it, because, I'm in a scumbag guild. We just casual it. We don't kill Viscidus. Great guide, right? So I don't really know, just to be honest, about Scarab Brooch. If it is good, all of your healers are going to want it. So, there's that. Does this actually... one interesting thing to talk about is this work with Chain Heal. Does it shield everybody? How does that work? Or is it just, maybe it just works with the initial target with Chain Heal. If it works with all of the Chain Heal targets, then I'm sure you'd want to pry with Shamans. Otherwise, I guess everybody wants it, so it's not really that interesting to talk about either way. But yeah, there's my good guide on Scarab Brooch. Princess Huron. We got Wasp Gauntlets, Gloves of the Messiah. These are usable gloves. I think Wasp Gauntlets are more defensible to play with than Gloves of the Messiah. Priests will be using their tier 2 gloves a lot of the times. If there's not, there's other options in Gloves of the Messiah. I don't actually think these are very good. Wasp Gauntlets, they are significantly better than this, in my opinion. But the same thing with hand. You can say the same thing. Everybody has a better option than this. Like, non-paladins will be using their tier 2, and I think it's better just to go ahead and get your tier 2 3-piece in the glove slot than to use these. So you can use better pieces in the other slots. And Paladins have the Peacekeeper Gauntlets from, was it Hakar? Those are better than this, in my opinion. So really, this is just like the leather helm we were talking about before. It's fine for people that can wear it, but nobody really wants it. It's just kind of there. So the same things I said about that helmet pretty much apply here. Ring of the Martyr. This is Abyss Ring. A lot of healing on this puppy. Everybody's going to want it. Not really much to discuss here. It's just the best for everybody. So prepare for competition. Twin Emperors. They drop several belt options and a good bracer. We'll talk about the good bracer here. Arguably, this is best for everybody, according to my knowledge. Again, the same thing that's been said about a lot of the gear in here is your tier 2 bracers. A lot of people want to use those instead. Depending on what gear you have access to, it may be better just go ahead and get the bracelets of Royal Redemption and just use like a tier 2 chest or whatever instead if you don't have Robes of the Guardian Saint. So it depends on where you're at, as with a lot of this gear. 53 healing on a bracer is a lot. I mean, you can compare that to the Shaman healing, the Shaman bracers, which I think have nothing. They have like just a little bit of MP5. So there's a good argument to be made for wanting this on everybody. So I guess there's that. I'd personally probably own the Paladins, probably. Alright. Regenerating Belt of Vecnalash, and where are we at? Belt of the Fallen Emperor. Belt of the Fallen Emperor is not where I want to be. You can have a Corehound belt, just buy it, and you got it. No problem. So I don't think it's really worth even talking about here. Just get the Corehound belt. Regenerating Belt is comparable to a Corehound belt. You're losing a little bit of healing to gain significantly more stats. So this is, it's worth talking about. The Cthulhu belt's better than all of these options. But if you're not down in Cthulhu or you just don't want to wait, this is a solid option. I wouldn't really fret over it because Corehound belt isn't that much worse, and it's available to everybody that can wear it. And the Priest, well, you got Cthulhu belt. So there's that. This thing, not that thing. Why is this in the way? This thing, not good enough for plate. This thing, it's good enough, but it's just, lost with all the other gear we have options for. Oro. Worm Skull Blocker. I hate that it doesn't look as cool as the Blackwing Lara Shield, but it's good. Like, you want to wear... Ideally, if you're min-maxing, like, you don't want this. You want Sorcerer's Might or Lead the Lifegiver. The only time that you would actually want this is, like, when some of the packs in AQ, they have a lot of ads and stuff. You'd want it for PvP healing. Other than that, like, the offhands that are not shields should be used. But this is an option, and one could argue that, Shaman and Paladin have access to shields, so they have more options than classes that don't, so you might not be getting Sorcerer's Might anyway. That being said, if you're a min-maxer, you should probably just have Lay of the Lifegiver. And this is just not as good, but it's some option to use on certain fights. Donricobertos. Really good pieces of gear. Looks really cool too. Let's go ahead and try it out. There you go. Looking nice. Absolutely. Got the pimp hat going on. TorrensShamanPimpHat.com. Whatever. I made it a little weird, but everybody wants Donricobertos. Not everybody's going to get it. It's going to be highly contested. The same things I said about the other helmet apply here as well. There are other tier 2 options you could use instead of this. You would use this instead of your tier 2 options, but you can use tier 2 until you get this, or if you never get this, it's okay, believe me. You want it, but just settle for your tier 2 because you're going to have a hard time getting this. That being said, it's on par, if not better, than the World Boss helmets. So if you can do that, great. If you already have one of those, don't worry about upgrading to this, if you even consider it an upgrade. For everybody else, there's tier 2, and if you're lucky enough to get this, congrats, I'm jelly. Alright, Big Cthulhu here. Like I said earlier, we'll go ahead and discuss the neck. It's best in slot, in my opinion. It doesn't really have int, but it has a lot of healing. And the way we play WoW now, you want a lot of healing and you don't really care about anything else, right? It just occurred to me that I missed Ring of the Devoured. That's here. Yeah. We'll come back to Cthulhu. Ring of the Devoured, it has a lot less healing than the other options. Even I think this is even worse than running Forge Ring Seal. And everybody has access to that. And Cauterizing Band, I think, is still better than this in general healing. The only time that I would want to use this is if you're struggling on really long fights like Twin Imps. Then I could see it being defensively to use it, but I don't think I would even recommend it then. But we might as well discuss it, right? It does have a lot of MP5, but as I just said, the healing is what most people are focused on. But it's useful to some people, I assume, somewhere. Cthulhu, again. Okay, neck, we said that was already good. Grasp of the Eldgods. This is arguably better than Corehound Belt, but not by a lot. I would take this over Corehound Belt or tier 2 pieces, but it's not super significant upgrade. But it is an upgrade, so if you can get it, get it. If you can't, it's not a big deal. The same thing could be said about Cloak of Clarity. This has slightly less healing than Heart of the Wild, but I would say that it is better than Heart of the Wild, just with the stats and MP5. I mean, I think most people would agree that this is better than the other options, Heart of the Wild and Shroud of Pure Thought. But also, it's just like Grasp of the Eldgod. It's not enough better to really get excited about. If you're blowing DKP, you probably aren't going to feel good blowing DKP on Cloak of Clarity. And I mean, if you're in a, what's the word I'm looking for? A loot council. Yeah, loot council guild, and then they give you this, you're not going to be on Prio for like Scepter of the False Prophet. So, you know, it's good. It's best in slot in my opinion, along with Grasp of the Old God. But like I said, they're kind of interchangeable with the other options. And the other options, being Heart of the Wild and Corehound Belt, are just very easy to get. So yeah, moving on. What else we got here? Oh, that's right, Scepter of the False Prophet. Yeah, this is when your priest stop caring about benediction. This is when Lockamere is like, well, forgotten. You know, in Lockamere patch, everybody's like, hey, I'm excited. We got Lockamere. I feel like a big boy now. Well, Scepter of the False Prophet existing in the game, you really don't. And if you're like a peasant like me with Claw of Chromagus, you know, you don't feel like you're even playing. But obviously, everybody that can get this will want to get this. I think it looks not that great. Looks a little too tribal for me. Not sure why it drops here in the bug instance, but you know, now that I'm looking at it, this is like a Scarab pincer, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Either way, you want it. If you can get it, you're going to take it. Obviously, not much else to talk about. It's just so much healing that it's kind of insane. Like, this is definitely best in slot until Naxx. Now, the Naxx Mace has quite a bit more healing than this. I think it's like 200 plus. So it is better than Scepter. But if you get Scepter, you're good for Classic. So that's pretty much all the gear in AQ40. So is it actually worth the hassle to even run AQ40 in Phase 5 to prepare for Naxx? I guess that depends. That's a nice wolf. I mean, in reality, if you're a priest, you could just get like full tier 2, get the blue ZG rings, get a couple greens, get the AQ20 necklace, and your trinkets, like you get like good class trinkets. And then you're good to go. Like, you could go to Naxx with that. It might not be best in slot, and obviously it's not, but you don't even ever have to do AQ40 as a priest. And Shaman, like some Shaman, still rock tier 1. If you're doing tier 1, you can run that into Naxx. I don't think it's, you know, the best thing to be doing. You know, when you get to Naxx, like, the stats are going to start slowing it down. But it is, like, you don't have to feel ashamed going into Naxx with tier 1. And, you know, the other options you could have, like, you got Salamander, you got Robes, like, all of this stuff that I have here in the bag, like, this is all, in my opinion, like, this is my chain heal set, and it's good enough to go into Naxx. Like, I don't really need any more gear from AQ40. Now, granted, I would prefer to have better gear than this, but is it really necessary? No, not really. You compare, like, Robes the Exalted, like, 5 int, 11 spirit, and 68 healing to, let's see, 22 int, 20 stamina, and 70 healing, and 70 MP5. Obviously, this is a lot better, but it doesn't put that much more healing on it. I mean, nobody's going to argue that Robes the Exalted are better than Robes of the Guardian Saint. But is it really worth running, like, AQ40 for several months to get this, or maybe never get it? And that's, like, one of the biggest pieces to argue about. That's, like, one of the biggest upgrades you can get. Everybody else already has, you know, like Heart of the Wild and Shroud of Pure Thought, Wild Growth Spalders, your tier 2 set. I mean, here's your Corehound Belt. Everybody's already got that. Your pants, you already have options there as well. And like I said, priests, they can just go full tier 2. Paladins, I don't think you have as good as options as the other classes do. Like, you know, you might be able to go get the hand-me-down gear in AQ40. It's probably most worth doing AQ40 as a paladin. That being said, I think you can pretty much get like second best gear and be good to go. And who knows how difficult Naxx will be. But so far, Classic's been a face roll. Like, my guild is super casual. And, you know, I think that's the majority of guilds. Like, we're super casual. We just downed Oro. And I don't think we've downed Visk yet. And how far into AQ40 are we? And I think that's where most guilds are. And, like, other than Cthulhu and Imps and Oro, like, we haven't struggled with anything. Like, Black Wing Liar is a face roll. Really? Really? Okay. I gotta retake the video. The wolf aggroed. I've lost my train of thought. Anyways, what I'm saying is, you know, even my guild, as mediocre as it is, as casual as it is, like, I think most of the players in it are geared enough to start against Naxx, and I think they'll be downing bosses. You know, if your guild's struggling with Cthulhu, you're probably not going to go in and clear the place, but I think you can go in there and kill some bosses. Or other guilds that are more try-hard and come full buffed with world buffs and full consumes, and are like best in class with their play skill, are they going to need gear from AQ40? No. Is the average person going to need gear from AQ40? Well, it helps, but I think you could skip the entire phase and not feel too bad about it. You know, that's just my opinion, and I've kind of gotten bored of raiding and WoW in general because, like, my gear right now is good enough to go into Naxx, in my opinion. If you disagree, then, you know, hey, that's your opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to discussion there. But why would you need other gear than this out of AQ40? And granted, I've got a couple AQ40 pieces. Like, I got the totem. Great. Cool. The rest of the stuff, Blacking Lyre stuff, MC stuff. Like, I mean, I miss Robes the Exalt is the biggest piece that you're missing. And you're in competition with everybody to get that. So is it even worth coming to Phase 5 AQ40? And my final verdict, if you enjoy raiding AQ40 and you're not burned out on WoW, feel free to do so, obviously. If you're kind of bored of WoW, I think you can go into hibernation mode and come back for Naxx. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Let me know how you feel about it. Have a good one.